Hello, welcome to my channel. Welcome to this video. I'm Anna and let's get into it. Today's a video that I am very excited about because I'm going to walk you through some of the books I've read, some of the books that I would really love to do either a reread or just a deep dive video about. Clyde is here today, by the way. He is right off screen. He is a menace. So today I'm going to be going through like some of the most influential book series of my entire life. We're going to be going from like some of my earlier days and then segueing into what I'm reading now as an adult. And again, these are not all of my books. These are just all of the books that like I would be willing to do a reread or I would be willing to make videos about. This is like priming you guys for what I'm planning to talk about in the coming months, years, weeks, whatever, how long this takes. The first series I want to talk about is The Forest of Hands and Teeth by Carrie Ryan. I do own all three of the trilogy. I'm very mad that this third book, I only have a hard copy. This is the one from my childhood. That's why there's like writing on it and like something white on the front. I don't fucking know what that is. But this was probably the most monumental book that I read in my young adult life. This was what started a multiple-year-long obsession with zombies. This book is about a young girl who's born into this town well after the zombie apocalypse happened. They are an isolated town. She doesn't think anything else exists, but her family tells her stories about the ocean. I think they're 3 generations deep into the zombie apocalypse. Like her parents' were alive during the apocalypse and have photos of like being at the beach and like traveling, but all of those were lost in a house fire. And so she is driven by not only insatiable teenage lust, but also a deep love of the ocean and a drive to someday see it. The second book, The Dead Tossed Waves, you can kind of, you know, surmise maybe someone made it to the ocean. And the third book is kind of disconnected from the trilogy, does not have our main character from the first 2 books as the main character. I didn't enjoy it as much because I really loved following this character. I really associated a lot with her, but I would really love to reread these and see if they held up to the test of time. Again, I read these, I think, in 7th grade. At least the first one I picked up in 7th grade and reread that over and over again, and it became my identity. But I have not reread it since maybe freshman year of high school when I lost the book initially and it was somewhere. I may have loaned it to somebody, they may still own it. I may have packed it away in a box to put in like a storage space somewhere and then it got eaten by who knows who. But I have not reread this in a long time and I am looking forward to maybe making a video about it, maybe making a video about the trilogy specifically. After that book series, I got so deep into reading. It wasn't the first book series I had read by a long shot, but it was definitely the one. You know, we all have the one book series. It was the one. It got me into it. And that led me to the Bogus to Bubbly series. Now, this is another trilogy that I fell in love with, absolutely fell in love with in 7th grade. And it is about our young Tally Youngblood. I reread these recently. I really loved the reread. I own the new release copies, the new prints that just came out because I was rereading them again. These are the first books series that I bought, like went out of my way to buy and collect as an adult. You'll notice through this that I don't have the Harry Potter series. I've had different Harry Potter books through the years, but I really at this age want a set of books. I don't want a box set, but I want all the books to like look the same. I want them all to have like similar spines and look nice on my bookshelf. And I have never had a set of Harry Potter books. I also despise hardcover books. And we can talk about that another time. Dust jackets are fucking stupid. I like when my books show wear and tear. That means I love them. And like, these are cheaper anyway. Why do I have any? And like, without the dust jacket, what book is this? I'm gonna throw the dust jacket away. What book is this? You see it on the spine, but that's it. It's like so boring otherwise. And not my vibe. Not my vibe. So that's why I don't have the Harry Potter books, because those are some of the ones I had. They were family copies, whatever. But these books were influential. They follow the main character, Tally Youngblood, in a, again, post-apocalyptic society, but way after all the horrors had happened. So like, they talk about the apocalypse here and there in these books, but it's really not that big of a main topic. I think that series and this series have something very important in common. The ruling government is maybe not evil, but way too controlling for what they need to be. They're getting a little drunk on power. Maybe we don't like that. Maybe it's time to like shake it up a bit. They're very angsty teen books. They're very angsty teen books, but I thoroughly enjoyed my reread of these books, especially if you can take yourself out of yourself and put yourself in the mind of like a middle school girl experiencing all of this like rebellion and fun and intrigue and like, oh my god, I'm gonna go on my hoverboard for the first time. I think I love these books so much at the age I was because of how weird they are, of how interesting and fucking bizarre they are. But these I will be absolutely, hopefully, doing like a more of an in-depth review kind of read through sort of with you so that we can go over this together and I can have people to like chat with about this series. The next series I want to talk about is one that I have talked about a little bit in the past in my last video, Percy Jackson and the Olympians. This book series was the first one that I found a community around. This book series I read in 7th grade, so maybe before I was super into the Bogus to Bubbly series, but not too much before. I honestly don't remember if this one was first or that one was first, and that's why he is 3rd in our list. I recently reread these in preparation for the Disney Plus series that came out, and I have thoughts. I have thoughts on that Disney Plus series. I have thoughts on these books. This is something I want to make a much more in-depth video about. Maybe a series, maybe a reread again, because it has been a couple years since I have read this book series. This was the first book series that I found community around. Actually, me and all of my friends in middle school in 7th grade, we read through these books together as they were coming out. We went to go see that live action shit show in person, I think opening weekend, all together as a group. I want to say some of us cosplayed, but like, we did not know what that was at the time, so if we did, it eludes me. It is not part of my memories. I did go to like a fan meetup with a friend for these books. We definitely did not, absolutely did not have a coven to the goddess Artemis. I don't know what you're talking about. That absolutely did not happen. I was absolutely not the 3rd in that coven, and we absolutely did not have a circle where we like casted spells and stuff. No. We were definitely not way too into this book series for what was good for us in 7th grade. Yeah, I will be talking more about this. Let's segue into the book series that got me into reading adult fantasy, the ACOTAR books. Now, this isn't the only set of ACOTAR books I have. I do have A Court of Silver Flames in hardcover form on my nightstand. I have 2 of my favorite books of all time on my nightstand. One is The Shack, the other is this, and I will make a video about The Shack, but that one's gonna have so many trigger warnings on it that I don't think I want to touch on it here too much. But the ACOTAR series, I bought this book a year before I read it. I was seeing it everywhere online. Everybody told me I should read it. I was reading, I think, book 4 of the Harry Potter series, The Goblet of Fire. I think I was reading that one at the time that I bought this book, and I was like, I want to segue into adult fantasy. I want to see what that's like. I don't want to be reading about children anymore. It's fun to like revisit who I've been in the past, but like, let's move on. Let's move forward. Let's build a life from here, you know? And I had to give this like 3 or 4 chances. Carrie Can Read, actually, her like video about the plot, the Forgot the Plot on ACOTAR, was my segue into this book. I don't care about spoilers. Spoil everything for me. Help me get comfortable with the world and the characters and all of that, because otherwise I'm just not going to enjoy it as much as I could. I always enjoy things better on a second read through than a first. So that was what got me into this book. And in quick succession, this is what really, I think, began my problem with buying books. In quick succession, I bought and read all of them. Because I'm a slow reader, I think it took me about a year to like go through and read all of these books, at least a good 6 months, because each one took me at least a good month to read through. But then let's talk about the fact I do have Frost and Starlight also. I don't keep it with my, like, It's a novella, so like I don't keep it with the actual because I feel like it looks too small and throws off the balance for me. But anyway, let's not talk about this. This is a trilogy. For me is mid. I am not a big fan of Feyre. I call her Fair in my head. I'm gonna be honest. I call her Fair. I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong. I'm not a big fan of her. I'm not a fan of our protagonist in these books. I can do more in-depth talk-throughs, read-throughs. I've been looking for a reason to read through this series again. I'd love that. I am not a big fan of her. I find her to be an unreliable narrator. I don't like what happened with Tambourine, and I don't like what happened with Rhysand. I think both of them are pretty equally bad guys, and I think one of them was treated like a villain while the other one was treated like a martyr. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Not it for me. Not it for me. However, they're necessary reads. They're necessary reads. And why is that? Well, I'll tell you. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, this is probably the best book I have read to date. Not because the main character is likable, not because you're rooting for the main character, not because there is spice. I'm not sure I'm a fan of super spicy books. I do skip over it most of the time. However, the main character in the middle to end of this book redeems everything for me. I read this book in a time in my life when I had just finished healing from a lifelong struggle with complex PTSD, and like, maybe it was just right place, right time, you know, maybe it was just the right place, right time. And this book helped me realize I don't care when sad things are happening. I don't care when sad things are happening. Like, sad things happen. But when sad things happen and then we bring it full circle, bring it to a happy point, sobbing mess. And I just love that so much. I absolutely adore an earned redemption arc. I know this is a controversial book because you either were a Nesta and you can associate with her so much and it's your favorite book, or you had to endure a Nesta, and I'm so sorry. Having been a Nesta, this actually gave me some really good perspective on what other people maybe saw while I was going through what I was going through, what other people had to put up with, how maybe they felt being on the outside and seeing thoughts like I had every single day. I'm not gonna get too much into it. I am about to get too much into it. I'm about to ramble, but let's just say this book gave me clarity. This book gave me a redemption arc that I could cry about. And what more can I ask for from a book? Especially a redemption arc that felt so personal. Reading this book feels vulnerable for me. But I'll use that as a segue. I'll use that as a segue to talk about another story that is probably my favorite series I've ever read. I don't have all the books here because I have loaned some of them out to try and force one of the people in my life to read them. So again, I'm not alone. I did read them while I was kind of alone going through it, and I'm so mad about that, and I had no one to talk to about that. However, it's probably my favorite series I have ever read because it feels nostalgic. It's like I'm rereading Playing Outside as a child, but in a way that is so much more put together than I could have ever imagined up as that child. It feels like there were redemption arcs that were earned. It's the Throne of Glass series. I was just about to spoil it and say Manon's arc, or like Dorian's arc, or Chaol's arc, or as I called him, Chol. I called him Chol in my head the whole time, and Manon. I'm not sure that the main character of this series as well is my favorite, but like, I'll be damned if you'll ever hear me on Yrene slander, okay? And the fact that this series had so much variety of character gave me somebody to root for, even when in this book I hated the main character. In that book, I hated the main character. Like, there's so many different POVs you get, and it's just so much world building. It's such a long series, and it really started the Massverse. I'm so excited to like finish Crescent City and loop my way back. Hopefully we'll get the crossover of the century. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about in the next ACOTAR book. Yeah, I'm so excited to talk more about that series later on down the line. Maybe do a read through when it's like out of my head a little bit more, and I can make a play-by-play review and read through of it with you. So maybe I'm not gonna be alone this time. But for now, let's put him down. Though I will say, I don't like enemies to lovers. I personally, and this is the issue I had with the ACOTAR series too, I do not forgive easily. I am holding grudges still from kindergarten. I do not forgive very easily. I am the queen of holding a grudge. And so Sir Whitethorn, every time we're talking about how much we love him, you know what's in the back of my mind? The world would have been better off if you had died. All I'm gonna say is, it keeps me from being able to see past that, to see him for who he is. So maybe let's not write such mean lines. Maybe we can do like dislike to lovers. Maybe we don't have to do enemies like that to lovers for like literally no reason. Why were they saying those things? Anyway, I digress. Speaking of, let's get into some series that I've just recently started, or that I just finished that book and I'm on a book buying ban, so I can't buy the next one in the series and I'm mad about it. This is the first one that I read, and again, fucking hardcover. What book is this? What book is this? You don't know. It's A Fate Inked in Blood. Love this book. Hate this book. Can't wait for the second one to come out. I am angry every day that the second book doesn't come out. And this is probably going to be the first book that I make like a review and like a talking chatty video about, because I have so much to say. I went on a 20-minute rant to my loved one who has not read this book about this book. I had such a book hangover when I finished this. This was one of my most fun reads recently. I wanted to scream at the main character. I wanted to scream at her many times. Probably the most unlikable main character I have ever read. And that is where I'll leave that, because I will be making a very long book video about this. But again, so excited for the next one to come out. I will buy it immediately. I do not regret owning this in hardcover, because I do not regret owning this book. This is probably the best buy, not the store, that I have made since the Throne of Glass books. You win some, you lose some, and sometimes in the same operation. Next up, a book I refuse to finish until I own the next one. I have that much left. This book I read immediately after my book hangover for A Fate Inked in Blood, and let me tell you, it did not disappoint. I liked this main character so much more, but like I understand some of the decisions that were made. I'm really hopeful for the next books that there is going to be an acknowledgement of some of what is being set up as abuse. But so far, I don't have super high hopes. I'm just really holding out for it. I'm really holding out that we're gonna get some clarity about who these characters are by the characters in the book and not just me as the reader. But I digress. This is a book that I, again, refuse to finish until I own the next one. I do plan on making more videos about these books as I read the series, as I finish this book. I might come out with something, but I'm not sure. Again, I don't have super high hopes that the main character is going to recognize what's going on here, but it's being set up in a way where I'm led to believe we will at some point. So maybe I'll get farther in the series before I talk about it to see if I want to rant or not, or if I want to praise. But I'm excited to finish this book and to get into more in the series once I am off of my book buying ban, because again, I buy too many books and I don't read them fast enough. And then finally, the most recent book that I have finished, and I just finished it yesterday, it was actually the reason that I decided I was ready to start talking about my reading. I was ready to maybe join a book club, to maybe make videos, to connect with people over reading, and it is my very first contemporary romance. I have not read something that wasn't, I was gonna say sci-fi or fantasy, but I haven't read a sci-fi book since high school, since Old Man's War. I haven't read a sci-fi book since Old Man's War, so I don't know what I'm talking about. I've pretty much only read fantasy books and like post-apocalyptic books through my entire life, but definitely in the last 10 years. But this is my very first contemporary romance. Maybe I'll make a video about it. Maybe I'll make a video about it. I feel so lukewarm about this book right now because of the way that it ended, because of, I'm again not trying to get very spoilery in this video, but like, let's just say we have like mediocre to lovers to enemies to stalker. And like, I don't know where I would want this to go ultimately. The reason that this gave me the idea that I could start talking about the fact that I'm a reader and I could start bringing this to other people, to the internet, was because this book is like a pretty standard length of a book, I would say. He is 334 pages, and I was able to finish this in 2.5 days, which is very quick for me. Again, I'm a very slow reader. It took me a month to get through A Court of Silver Flames, which, a big book, don't get me wrong, but like, I would have full 8-hour days where I was reading, and I've been doing it so frequently that I think I have increased my reading speed enough that I am not embarrassed any longer of how slowly I read. This book showed me not only can I read contemporary romance rather than just fantasy, so I can branch out and read a bunch of different things, but I can also read at like a normal speed for people to read. Normal speed, I guess I should put in quotes, because what the fuck does that mean? I didn't expect a couple of the twists in this book. I expected most of them, I'll be honest with you. I didn't expect a couple of them, and that was fun. I really like being surprised in the books that I read. I did have a big cry moment in this book near the end. I just love seeing people win. What can I say? Like, I just love seeing people conquer fears. I love seeing people follow their dreams. I love seeing people in a moment in time that's earned, that I've like sat there and gone through the shit with them, and now they're in like a happy, good place. That's my fucking shit right there. That's what I'm there for. And this book had it, and I loved that part. I just don't know where I want the romance in it to go. I don't know if I like the romance in this book anymore. But yeah, that is the last book that I want to talk about in this specific video. I know it's not necessarily like a bookshelf tour, but the lighting over there isn't great, and I figured it might be better to, you know, take an entire pile or two of books and just completely reorganize my bookshelf after this video. Probably not the smartest. However, it is what it is, and it is done. I don't know what else to tell you. Please let me know of these books if there's any that you've read, or if you'd be interested in hearing more about. Like I said, I plan on making videos anyway, but I still would be interested to start talking about what you think about these books, if you'd ever read them. I'm so excited to start reading what's on my TBR next, but for now, I think I'm gonna let you go. Again, the next video is going to be a Q&A. So please leave in the comments if you have any questions, any cues for me to any questions for me to answer, and I will see what I can get to. It'll probably be one question, and then I'll ask my dad for questions, and he'll provide me with a bunch of joke questions, and then I'll ask my friends for questions, and then they'll probably not know what to ask me, so they'll provide me with a lot of interesting, weird questions. So anything you can, I feel like a beggar, anything you can spare, please let me know. I'm going to be answering questions. If there are questions I find on Google, there'll be questions I find on Google, but I'd prefer them to be from you. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you the next time that I see you. It's food time for Clyde too! Bye.